MLAs, students, teachers, parents, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Before we get started with today's important agenda, I want to touch on something we are all dealing with this morning: the fire at the Georgetown landfill. I can assure you that all is being done to tackle the fire. Right now, the firefighting efforts have shifted from the Esterly Tibbetts Highway side and the Cayman Bay side to the mound where the fire is concentrated. All resources from the West Bay Fire Station and the Central Fire Station were diverted to the landfill. The Frank Sound Fire Station provided cover to the rest of the island, and as such moved 2 pumps to the cruise terminal landing at Spots to be closer to Georgetown and West Bay. The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service is also present at the site, and all crews have worked through the night to contain and stop the fire. I want to commend Chief Fire Officer Paul Walker and praise the work being done by the men and women of the Cayman Islands Fire Service, the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, and the Department of Environmental Health for their tireless efforts and commitment to our beloved islands. I also want to thank the men and women who opened and manned shelters at John Gregg Gym and the Red Cross last night, the staff at Hazard Management Cayman Islands, as well as the civil service. And I appreciate the patience of everyone as crews work to put out this fire. So now on to the agenda of the day. I am delighted to welcome you all to the 13th Annual Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Youth Parliament on this occasion of World Commonwealth Day. This is a day where we in the Cayman Islands Legislative Assembly annually celebrate our youth because we recognize them as our future leaders. So this is an important day as we bring to fruition this dynamic exercise as a means of sharing our experience, knowledge, and expertise in grooming our young people to one day take our places. Significantly, it is also a milestone in the island's youth calendar of activities each year, since participation in Youth Parliament provides a great learning experience for our young people in a number of skills, including time management, speech writing, and debating. Equally importantly, participation in the Youth Parliament proffers a tremendous opportunity for Cayman's youth to engage in practical civics, thus extending their classroom learning. Our theme for this year's Youth Parliament, as determined by the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, better known as the CPA, is delivering a common future, connecting, innovating, and transforming. Clearly, much thought has gone into the creation of this year's theme, which is a well-enunciated depiction of the times we live in, particularly given the tremendous influence that social media now wields in the Commonwealth and elsewhere. The theme was chosen because the governments and people of our diverse family of 54 Commonwealth countries connect at many levels through extensive and deep-rooted networks of friendships and goodwill. We in the Cayman Islands understand and have for many years embraced diversity. We may be small in geographic size, but our population is very diverse, having more than double the number of nationalities represented in the Commonwealth today. Currently, nearly 140 nationalities live and work in our midst. So we all, including our youth, deal with diversity on a daily basis in our schools and in our communities. It is entirely gratifying that we have got young people thinking about how to achieve and deliver such a common future in the Commonwealth. Public engagement is crucial in connecting, innovating, and transforming social networks and cultures in all societies. This calls for an informed and involved populace, which is crucial for a functioning and vibrant democracy. As the speaker once said, connecting with others gives us a sense of inclusion, connection, interaction, safety, and community. Staying connected and getting reconnected feeds the flow of goodness that empowers our humanity. Innovation means a new dimension to stay connected, as today's world shows us time and time again. As Bill Gates famously said, and I quote, "Never before in history has innovation offered promise of so much to so many in so short a time," unquote. And innovation is a powerful tool for transforming our individual and collective lives, our communities, and indeed our nations. Because without transformation, we remain stagnant and stale, and that is why it's so refreshing to hear young people with their innovative, novel, and hope-filled ideas. If we need meaningful change for our collective future, we need to involve our young people now in our articulation of the problems and our quest for solutions. As President Barack Obama once inspiringly said, and I quote, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are the change that we seek." And further, change is brought about because ordinary people do extraordinary things. By giving them opportunities to think, explore, and emote about such important topics, we are truly helping our young people here learn more, including about themselves, and come up with more creative approaches and solutions to commonplace and particular problems. Above all, they become better engaged in their communities, thereby being better able to work for their welfare when they take the future reins. In the Cayman Islands, we are indeed a microcosm of the Commonwealth and the wider world. The Commonwealth has a population of 2.4 billion people, and the CPA works tirelessly throughout the year to ensure that all engagements and activities are as inclusive as all the representatives of this large population. Also, an astounding 60% of the Commonwealth population is under the age of 29, and these young people are the future of the Commonwealth. Therefore, it is vital that they are included and their voices are championed. The whole Youth Parliament experience for these 25 young people here, from local high schools and tertiary education institutions, has been a good training ground for their future community engagement. They came together back in October last year and worked together and received training for over 6 months, sharing ideas, experiences, and examining pros and cons, while networking and creating friendships. Juggling school, homework, and tests over these weeks, they have certainly put in a lot of hard work and passionate effort into reaching the proceedings this morning. My fellow MLAs on the Youth Parliament Organizing Committee, Councillor Mr. David White, Mr. Alva Saku, Mr. Kenneth Bryan, and Mr. Bernie Bush, assisted assiduously by Clerk of the LA, Ms. Zena Marin-Chin, and her very able team in the LA office, are highly grateful that we got an opportunity to work with our youth from Cayman Brac and Grand Cayman once again. It has given us a tremendous chance to hear their views, as you all will in a short while. We're already proud of what they have accomplished thus far and are confident they have the ability and zeal to achieve so many more milestones in their bright lives. As committee chair, I would like to issue our hearty gratitude to all our sponsors, but especially to our principal benefactor, once again this year, local law firm Harney's, led by their partner, Mr. Nick Hoffman. Again, a warm welcome and my very best wishes to the participants as we look forward to scintillating few hours of meaningful debates. Thank you. I will now call on the Deputy Premier, Honorable Moses Kirkconnell, to deliver the welcome address on behalf of the Honorable Premier, who was unable to be here today based on the ongoing issues relating to the landfill. Honorable Kirkconnell.
Protocol has been established very well by Councillor Conley. I would just like to again offer apologies on behalf of the Premier, who's been up most of the evening and night at the landfill. I'd also like to acknowledge again the presence of Governor Roper and the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. McLean. A very pleasant good morning and welcome to our youth parliamentarians, their families, friends, and supporters as we celebrate another Commonwealth Day and the contributions of our young parliamentarians. Today I speak to our potential young leaders because you are here on this day. You show great promise for the future of these beloved islands. You have taken interest in the politics of the Cayman Islands, and for that I am not only thankful, but I'm very grateful. I know it seems like we're living in troubling times. Here at home, we experience a large earthquake we have ever known in January. Our country has been put on a financial blacklist, and the world is worried about the spread of coronavirus. And everyone in these hallowed halls here today knows about the landfill fire as it continues to burn. But I am not here to preach doom and gloom, as some would, but my message is about hope for the future of the Cayman Islands, because young people like you care. As I look at your bright and hopeful faces, I am reminded of a relay race. At some point in that not too distant future, the elders of this house, and I include myself, will be passing the baton along to some of you, just as the baton was passed to me 16 years ago. The world and these islands are indeed much different places than when I first took my seat in this honorable house. For starters, there are more people resident in our islands than ever before, close to 70,000 in my humble estimation. When our vestrymen created our first written constitution in 1959, 60 years ago, there were only about 8,500 people who called these islands home. But within those 60 years, we have accomplished much, building the country we all enjoy today and laying the foundation for your generation and those that come behind you to make improvements as they are realized and needed. In those 60 years, women have been given the right to vote and to stand for election. Many laws have been passed that make us one of the most modern and progressive small countries in the world, boasting of a well-run financial services industry and a tourism product that is second to none. We open our arms to those who would come and help us develop our country and live peacefully with more than 130 nationalities. At Youth Parliament last year, our world was also beset by strife and worries about trade wars between the United States, China, President Trump's wall to keep immigrants from going out of Mexico into the United States, an economic, social, and political crisis all over the world. Not much has changed, so this is the world you have inherited. And despite the gloom and doom I spoke of earlier, I reiterate, there is much, much hope because of you. In the words of former United States President Ronald Reagan, and I quote, "Each generation goes farther than the generation preceding it because it stands on the shoulders of that generation." You will have opportunities beyond anything we've ever known, and that's been true for every generation. It was of mine, and it will be of yours. But as we pass the baton to you, we do so knowing your concerns about your future economic prospects, climate change, and environment, to name a few. It is because you are thinkers and vocal about matters that I'm confident in the future of these islands. You care about the things that are important and sustainable, things that will allow this country to endure, not just for the next generation, but for those to come. You are here today to build leadership skills, knowledge, and understanding of the political process. The bills you will debate today will allow you to articulate what really moves you in this time and space. Some of you have been here before, and I trust your knowledge, experience will be of benefit to those who are new to these chambers. Your experience here today and the work you have done over the past months preparing you for the leadership roles, I am certain each one you will take. If not here in this legislative assembly, soon to be called our Parliament, then certainly in Caymanian society. Your participation here today shows insight and courage, and I and my colleagues can be heartened to know that when the day comes, and it will, that we depart this honorable house, we will be replaced by those of you who have our country at heart, who will be qualified with the judgment and experience to continue to lead these islands into the future. I thank you for your time and your dedication to your country. I look forward to watching each of you as you grow into your roles of leadership. As of this day, I wish you all well in your deliberations.
Good morning. I shall not keep you long. Firstly, let me join with the many who have congratulated you on being chosen to participate in this, the 13th year of CPA Youth Parliamentary Debate. I am confident that you will benefit immensely from this experience, as I have over the last 20 years. I also thank those who assisted in your preparation for today, including your parents and teachers. I was elected in November 2000, and by May 2001, I had the distinct pleasure of traveling with two 16, 17-year-olds to participate in a regional youth debate in St. Kitts. Today, one is a practicing lawyer and the other is a businesswoman. Over the ensuing years, many can attest to the invaluable experience. Over the ensuing years, many young Caymanians like yourselves have come through the Youth Parliament arm and can attest to the invaluable experience going on to study such disciplines as medicine, law, and more. They have all confirmed that their participation in Youth Parliament broaden their minds and perspectives. not to mention the honing of their public speaking. Winston Churchill once famously said, and I quote, "History will be kind to me, for I intend to write it myself," unquote. It is fair to say that the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association has written a mandate that is still relevant 109 years later. The need for and belief in open, democratic, parliamentary government. Whilst the Youth Parliament came many more decades later, it serves to provide a platform for young leaders to use their energy and passion to challenge the world for a better place. Today, the Commonwealth has a population of 2.4 billion people, 60% of which are under the age of 29. If there was ever a day to be mindful of this fact, it is today, the 9th of March, National Commonwealth Day. These young people are our future, and it is imperative that we listen to their voices and champion their causes. I am particularly pleased to see so many young ladies in this year's program, especially since we are currently celebrating Women's Month with the theme of #Each for Equal. CPA Cayman is celebrating 13 years, and it is fitting that this year's theme is delivering a common future, connecting, innovating, and transforming. Google could not explain what this meant to me, so I'm going to hazard a guess. The common future is self-evident. We need to all share the same planet, and our future survival depends on looking after it. Connecting, innovating, and transforming, I see this as ensuring citizenship engagement and evolving the way that we engage for a positive outcome. The world has witnessed more citizen participation to ensure their voices are heard in the transformation for the future. Here in Cayman, we are beginning to see movements in the same direction. Participation in this worthy cause signals a bright future for us all. We must never relent in our commitment, because there are no more new frontiers. We have got to make it here. Connecting globally, being innovative, and sharing common values will be the trump cards for the transformation in these shared spaces. As future Commonwealth leaders, that's what you are. As you champion open, honest governance, the rule of law, environmental change, equal rights, and representation, be mindful that faith and ideas are more important than numbers. As the Old Testament says, one can chase 1,000, two can put to flight 10,000. Again, I congratulate you and look forward to hearing your individual and collective views on the matters you have chosen to debate today. Perhaps one day soon, some of you will look back at this day with fond memories as you take your places, not as youth parliamentarians, but as duly elected representatives of the people of our beloved Cayman Islands. I also look forward to engaging the CPA Cayman for many years to come. I am a life member. May God bless you and guide you today, and may God bless the Cayman Islands. I thank you.
I'd like to officially open the 13th Youth Parliament with the reading of Her Majesty the Queen's Commonwealth Day message. From Buckingham Palace. On Commonwealth occasions, it is always inspiring to be reminded of the diversity of the people and countries that make up our worldwide family. We are made aware of the many associations and influences that combine through Commonwealth connection, helping us to imagine and deliver a common future. This is particularly striking when we see people from nations large and small gathering for Commonwealth Games, for meetings of Commonwealth governments, and on Commonwealth Day. Such a blend of traditions serves to make us stronger, individually and collectively, by providing the ingredients needed for social, political, and economic resilience. Throughout my life, I have had the opportunity to see and hear how membership of the Commonwealth family means so much to those living in all parts of the world. Often in places that are quite remote, advances in technology and modern media have now enabled many more people to witness and enjoy with remarkable immediacy the experiences of Commonwealth connection in the areas such as education, medicine, and conservation. Looking to the future, this connectivity means we are also aware, perhaps as never before, that wherever we live, our choices and actions affect the well-being of people and communities living far away and in very different circumstances. For many, this awareness awakens a desire to employ our planet's natural resources with greater care. And it is encouraging to see how the countries of the Commonwealth continue to devise new ways of working together to achieve prosperity whilst protecting our planet. As members of this very special community of this Commonwealth Day, I hope that the people and countries of the Commonwealth will be inspired by all that we share and move forward with fresh resolve to enhance the Commonwealth's influence for good in our world. Elizabeth, we officially open the 13th Youth Parliament.
Madam Speaker, all rise.
This Honorable 13th Youth Parliament is now in session. I will ask the Honorable Premier to say the prayers.
Let us pray. Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech thee, so to direct and prosper the deliberations of this 13th Youth Parliament of the Cayman Islands now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundations for the glory of thy name and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our Sovereign Lady, Queen Elizabeth II, Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, Charles, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially we pray for the youth parliamentarians participating in this youth parliament, that they may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of their high office. All this we ask for thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace, now and always. Amen.
Please be seated.
Reading of messages and announcements by the speaker.
Before I proceed to the order of business, I crave the indulgence of this Honorable CPA 13th Youth Parliament to say a few words. Today, I am delighted and I am overjoyed to play the integral role of the Honorable Speaker of the House for this 13th Youth Parliament. Today, March 9th of 2020, is Commonwealth Day, which is the annual celebration of the Commonwealth of Nations. Each year, a theme is chosen for Commonwealth Day. The theme informs events to mark the day and helps to guide activities by Commonwealth organizations throughout the year. The theme for 2020 Commonwealth Heads of Government Meeting for Commonwealth Day and for the work of the Commonwealth more generally is Delivering a Common Future, Connecting, Innovating, Transforming. 5 sub-themes have been identified for discussion: governance and rule of law, ICT and innovation, youth, environment, and trade. This theme was chosen because the governments and people of our diverse family of 53 Commonwealth countries connect at many levels through extensive and deep-rooted networks of friendship and goodwill. Together, the countries and people of the Commonwealth work to build peace and harmony through social and democratic development. Together, we encourage inclusive economic empowerment and fair trade so that all people, particularly women, young people, such as ourselves, and those in marginalized communities can share the fruits of progress and prosperity. Together, we are delivering a common future by connecting, innovating, and transforming our societies. The young people of this generation are the key to success, as we all hear very often, especially us as young people in the Commonwealth. The topics and motions today express the current challenges that are directly affecting the young people of this country. I believe the motions on the regulation of the use of e-cigarettes and changing the voting age from 18 to 16 are very important and relevant topics, which I am sure will spark the interest of all of us here today. As I stand here today as Speaker, I want to personally congratulate each one of the youth parliamentarians on their hard work and job well done. It takes dedication for you to put in effort to attending the sessions, and it also takes courage to be here today in order to persevere and continue this process. I see everyone's passion through all the research that you all have done. If it weren't for you all today, we wouldn't have such a lovely event with such gorgeous people, including myself. Youth parliamentarians are the voice of this country. As I have observed everyone, I can proudly say that you all have done a substantial job, leading us to where we stand. The benefits of this program are infinite. And I'm sure that the skills that we've acquired can be used to further our future. And for that, I am forever grateful to everyone that has helped us through this process. I am indeed honored and privileged to be playing such a key role in this honorable 13th Youth Parliament as the Speaker of the House. Youth Parliament enables young people to use their energy and passion to change the world for the better. I encourage you all to use this program as a stepping stone. Everyone has more greatness to come. With this, we have been granted something that many young people, especially around the world, don't have: a voice. After today, my time in this program will come to an end. Therefore, I leave you all with a quote from Nelson Mandela, in which he says, "Sometimes it falls upon a generation to be great. You can be that great generation. Let your greatness blossom." Thank you.
Other business. Private members' motions. Private members' motion number 1 of 2020, regulation of the use of e-cigarettes in the Cayman Islands, to be moved by the elected member for Northside.
I recognize the elected member for Northside.
Madam Speaker, I rise to move private member motion number 1 of 2020, regulation of the use of e-cigarettes in the Cayman Islands, which reads as follows. Whereas there is no current law which regulates the use, production, and selling of e-cigarette products within the Cayman Islands, and whereas there is no age limit to prevent the sale and use of e-cigarette products to minors, and whereas there is no regulation regarding the labeling, promoting, sale, and distribution of e-cigarettes, and whereas currently there is no requirement for a vendor to be regulated to sell or produce e-cigarette products, and whereas there is no requirement to display signs of warning about health safety or health hazards at the point of sale, and whereas there is no restricted location where the use of e-cigarette products is prohibited for the safety of the public. Be it now therefore resolved that this Honorable Youth Parliament considers regulating the use, sale, and production of e-cigarette products in the Cayman Islands.
Private members' motion number 1 of 2020 has been duly moved. Is there a seconder to the motion? I recognize the elected member for Cayman Brac East.
Madam Speaker, I beg to second private members' motion number 1 of 2020.
The motion has been duly moved and seconded. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as a government member, I rise to bring private member motion number 1 of 2020, regulation of the use of the e-cigarettes in the Cayman Islands, because it is imperative that we have regulation around the use, sale, and production of e-cigarettes for the health and safety of the people in our islands. An e-cigarette, also known as a vape, is defined by www.surgeongeneral.gov as a device that heats a flavored liquid into an aerosol which the user inhales. E-cigarettes feature a replaceable or refillable inhaler cartridge, and the liquid contained in the cartridge consists of a mixture of vegetable glycerin and/or propylene glycol, flavoring, and occasionally nicotine. Madam Speaker, e-cigarettes are a new trend in this modern-day society, especially among teens. But where did e-cigarettes come from? Well, the concept of vaping is nothing new. As a matter of fact, vaping can be traced as far back as ancient Egypt. According to the journal written by Vaping Daily, Egyptians were known for using herbs on hot stones to inhale the vapor given off by the herbs. However, a gentleman by the name of Joseph Robinson in 1927 was the first to develop the idea of e-cigarettes. Madam Speaker, in the Cayman Islands, there is no age limit to prevent the sale and use of e-cigarette products to minors, even though the legal age to sell alcohol is 18. The Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, is the agency with regulating powers when it comes to vaping products and devices in the United States. This is a result of the Family Smoking and Prevention and Tobacco Control Act. The act gave the FDA regulatory powers not just over tobacco products like traditional cigarettes, but on smokeless tobacco products like vaping devices. Restricting the age of those who can purchase vaping products is one of the functions of the FDA. The legal adult age for purchasing vaping products is 18. This may be the rule according to the FDA, but the truth is that each state has its own age regulations when it comes to vaping products. So in essence, the legal age can vary from 18 to 21 years of age. In addition, Madam Speaker, the motion also refers to no regulation regarding the labeling, promotion, and distribution of e-cigarettes. England, Scotland, and Wales have produced the Tobacco and Related Products Regulations 2016, which deals with the manufacture, presentation, and sale of tobacco and related products, including herbal products for smoking, e-cigarettes, refilled containers, as well as smokeless and non-tobacco products. No one may produce or supply an e-cigarette or refill container unless they meet the following requirements. Each unit packet of the e-cigarette or refill container must include a leaflet with the following information. Information for storage and use, including a reference that the product is not recommended for use by young people and non-smokers, contraindications, warnings for specific risk groups of people, possible adverse effects, addictiveness and toxicity, and the producer's contact details. Each unit packet of the e-cigarette or refill container must include a list of all ingredients in descending order by weight, nicotine content and delivery per dose, batch number, and recommendations to keep the product out of reach of children. Each unit packet contains nicotine, which is a highly addictive substance. It must appear on the front and back surfaces and cover 30% of that area. Madam Speaker, the motion also states that there is no regulation regarding the promotion of e-cigarettes. In the UK, e-cigarettes in refill containers cannot be advertised or promoted directly or indirectly on TV, on radio, through internet advertising, commercial email, and any other information society services, in certain printed publications, such as newspapers, magazines, and periodicals. Madam Speaker, the US and UK collectively have hundreds of years of experience and data relating to the importance of regulating smoking. If these developed first world nations see it fit to regulate e-cigarettes, there must be reasons to do so. And in the interest of time, I would only direct those who are not in support of this motion to visit the websites for the House representatives in the US and the House representatives in the UK to listen to the hundreds of hours of debate on why e-cigarettes should be regulated. Madam Speaker, there is no restricted location where the use of e-cigarette products is prohibited for the safety of the public. E-cigarettes do not burn tobacco and do not create smoke. But Madam Speaker, if smoking is prohibited in enclosed public spaces and workplaces, so should e-cigarettes and vaping. Therefore, Madam Speaker, in concluding my debate and having stated the facts related to the regulation of the use of e-cigarettes in the Cayman Islands, I would appeal to this honorable House to consider enacting a law to regulate the use, production, and sale of e-cigarettes within the Cayman Islands. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Cayman Brac West and Little Cayman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to speak on the private member motion number 1 of 2020, regulation of the use of e-cigarettes in the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, e-cigarettes were originally created and aimed towards smokers as a less dangerous alternative to traditional cigarettes. But recently, the use of e-cigarettes among young people is becoming a worldwide issue. We can impede the progress of this new trend by implementing new restrictions to combat it. The points I will be talking about have to do with the lack of health signs, warning of the dangers involved with vapes, the lack of restrictions in place for the advertisement of e-cigarettes on television and radio, and finally, the areas where the use of vapes should and shouldn't be allowed. Madam Speaker, there is a distinct lack of media warning us of the dangers of e-cigarettes. All around the world, there are signs, posters, billboards, etc., telling us about the hazard cigarettes pose to ourselves and others. Though this is true for cigarettes, there are almost no signs to warn the people of the dangers and health risks that come along as a byproduct with the use of e-cigarettes. In both the US and the UK, the promotion of any tobacco product is prohibited, though e-cigarettes are fair game for advertisers. Madam Speaker, for nearly 50 years, cigarettes have been banned from TV and radio, while e-cigarettes are not. This may cause young people to become more familiar with these products, and therefore more inclined to purchase them. These vapes can act as a gateway for the youth. According to a new study published by JAMA Network Open, teens that start vaping are nearly 3 times more likely to go on to smoke cigarettes than their peers who don't use any type of tobacco product. The solution I've come up with is to treat e-cigarettes in the same way as cigarettes when it comes to television and even radio. Madam Speaker, the advertisement of e-cigarettes has absolutely no restrictions. Although e-cigarettes have been around for more than 4 decades, vaping rates have only skyrocketed in recent years, especially amongst teens. E-cigarettes are now the most frequently used tobacco product among adolescents. Some 2.1 million high school students were e-cigarette users in 2017, far surpassing traditional cigarettes. Madam Speaker, these teens are also taking their e-cigarettes to their schools, which have several effects on them and their peers. Nicotine that is contained in the e-juices is highly addictive and can slow brain development, affect memory, concentration, learning, self-control, attention, influence mood, and increase the risk of other types of addiction as adults. I have thought up a strategy to combat this problem. It is to implement tighter restrictions in schools, and if that isn't enough, to add vape detectors to locations where the use of e-cigarettes is most prevalent, such as bathrooms. Madam Speaker, there is also a lack of prohibited areas for the use of e-cigarettes. When e-cigarettes are used, a vapor containing many harmful chemicals is released that can be harmful to yourself and those around you. But instead of banning vaping outright, I have devised a solution to this. Similar to that of traditional cigarettes, the use of vapes should be allowed in certain places, for example, in smoking designated areas, or even a new area specifically for those who use e-cigarettes. There should also be areas where e-cigarettes are restricted. Such areas should include public transport, government buildings, enclosed public spaces, playgrounds, and privately owned vehicles where minors are present. I have prohibited these areas for the use of e-cigarettes because of the presence of minors and the effect of secondhand vaping. Madam Speaker, vaping has many dangers, but due to the lack of health warnings, many members of the general public are unaware of these dangers. Still, the advertisement of e-cigarettes is allowed on many TV and radio stations. The lack of restrictions may make the youth more familiar with these products, and they will be more likely to indulge, which may lead to addiction. To combat vaping, schools should implement tighter restrictions and add vape detectors.
You have half a minute left.
In common areas. Vaping should not be allowed in any enclosed areas or locations where minors are present. Similar to regular cigarettes, e-cigarettes deserve to have an area where they are acceptable to use, either within the smoking area or within an area of their own. Vaping is becoming a large problem among the youth, and we need to take a stand to prevent any further damage. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Minister of Health, Environment, Culture, and Housing.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to give my contribution on the motion to regulate the use of e-cigarettes in the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, I aim to outline why the government should move to regulate e-cigarette products in 3 short points: the effects of nicotine addiction, the secondhand vaping issues, and the effects of e-cigarette withdrawal. As many in this House may be aware, the purpose of vaping was to create a sense of smoking without the harmful effects of tobacco by using an electronic device to help cigarette smokers quit their addiction. So, Madam Speaker, I for one don't know why we would allow minors who have never picked up a cigarette in their life the opportunity to smoke something that will have nothing but a harmful effect on the body. Although vaping is a lifestyle choice, minors are not usually mentally developed to make their own lifestyle choices. Therefore, we as the government need to make it our duty to choose what is best for them. Madam Speaker, the Tobacco Law of 2008 gives a definition of a tobacco product, but it makes no mention of nicotine, the addictive component in tobacco-related products. The law is also silent on e-cigarettes. Madam Speaker, according to the United States Alcohol and Drug Foundation, nicotine is a stimulant drug that speeds up the messages that travel between the brain and the body. Once nicotine is absorbed in the body, it enters the bloodstream and can cause abnormal brain development in young people. Madam Speaker, I have a report from the ADF which states that nicotine affects everyone differently. The report contains some actual short-term side effects, such as reduced appetite, stomach cramps, and vomiting, as well as long-term effects, such as cancer, asthma, etc. Nicotine is also said to be more addictive than heroin. There is essentially no safe level of drug use, and there will always be negative effects, whether you suffer from chronic diseases or become addicted. Madam Speaker, students in the Cayman Islands are vaping. I managed to gather snapshot data from one of my units, the National Drug Council. They oversee the Cayman Islands Student Drug Use Survey biannually across public and private schools. In 2018, the results revealed the overall lifetime prevalence of e-cigarettes was 32.8%. About 1 in 3 students reported having tried cigarettes. In all but one district, more than 29% of the students had tried e-cigarettes at least once. Among students who use e-cigarettes, 42.9% reported their perception of the risk level of harm as having no risk at all. This is proof that students are not mature enough to consider and understand the serious risk. If we regulate the use of e-cigarettes by adding an age limit, this will be a way of ensuring that our minors will have a chance at a normal brain development. Among students who reported being allowed to use at home, 12.1% use e-cigarettes, and among students who have used cigarettes at least once, 77.7% reported having used e-cigarettes. Madam Speaker, it has been proven in various studies that thankfully the number of youths who smoke cigarettes has decreased, but the problem is that the number of e-cigarette users have increased. And it has also been determined that youths who have not smoked cigarettes but have vaped e-cigarettes are more likely to pick up a cigarette and smoke in comparison to a teen who has neither smoked or vaped. Madam Speaker, on the point of secondhand vaping, the effects are basically the same thing as secondhand smoking, just less intoxicating. Even though both practices release toxic chemicals into the atmosphere, when vaping, there is no burning of any substance. Therefore, there is no combustion. Madam Speaker, if we are going to regulate e-cigarettes as opposed to making it illegal, we should ensure that its production is done the best way possible. And one way of doing that is to allow persons with license to produce and sell e-cigarette products such as e-liquids. Finally, Madam Speaker, I would like to highlight the point of withdrawal that could occur if a person becomes addicted to vaping and decides to quit. My fellow parliamentarians, with those alarming NDC statistics that I referenced earlier, I know for a fact that we all know someone who has tried to quit any type of drug and get what we call clean. And from their experiences, we know that it is an extremely difficult and a painful process that could lead to them relapsing.
You have half a minute left.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, my question is, why are these cigarette products, which lead to so many adverse health effects that are well documented, legally available to anyone? I admit, Madam Speaker, there may be limited data at the moment on the effects of long-term use of e-cigarettes, but I prefer to be cautious as a matter of public health concern. Other countries are getting on board with the regulation, and I challenge each and every honorable member of this House to place a priority on this serious matter and vote in favor of this motion as to protect our children, who we say are our future. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Prospect.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning, all. Today, I stand in this honorable youth parliament in full opposition to the government-presented motion this House considers regulation of use of vaping and e-cigarettes. Madam Speaker, I wish I could agree with the government on this matter. They call for a regulation but have presented no research done in the Cayman Islands to do this, nor do they present any budget or plans for this in the future. What the government also fails to acknowledge, Madam Speaker, is the true intentions of this activity. Smoking kills. Does that phrase ring a bell? It's the phrase that's said in every anti-cigarette/smoking campaign. It's the phrase that's plastered all over when you buy a new box of cigarettes. In 2016 alone, cigarettes caused the death of over 7.1 million people worldwide, whereas in 2016, vaping only claimed the lives of 33 people. Now, one life gone is too many, Madam Speaker, but why aren't we treating this issue the same way that we are treating cigarettes? As stated by one of the most popular vape companies, the product and its original purpose is to allow heavy cigarette users an avenue to stop without going cold turkey and foregoing many of the uncomfortable withdrawal symptoms which lead them back to the drug in the first place. The opposition acknowledges that over the short period of time that vape devices have been used, it's been used in ways which are contradictory to its original purpose. But it's not to be disregarded that its initial intentions were good. Madam Speaker, does anybody on the floor know what the original intention of cigarettes were? I didn't think so. Yet the government does not propose that it gets the same treatment as it's trying to bring forward for vape. It must also be cleared, Madam Speaker, that the nicotine content in vape is much lower than that of a cigarette, and addiction and dependency is unlikely unless the vape is used at astronomically high levels and concentrations daily. Given the price range of these items, that again is highly unlikely. Finally, Madam Speaker, in reading the government's proposed motion, I have realized that they do not acknowledge the benefits of using vape devices as opposed to any other drug or substance of a similar nature. A recent study concluded that on replacing the use of cigarettes with e-cigarettes allow the user's lung capacity and overall health to improve by over 20% on the basis of 3 months. Thank you, Madam Speaker. There is no argument that can be made by the government to renounce e-cigarettes as its position as a healthy alternative to cigarettes.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Cayman Brac East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As elected member for Cayman Brac East, I rise to speak on private member motion number 1 of 2020, regulation of the use of e-cigarettes in the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, today I will be discussing 3 very important points that act in favor of our motion here today. According to Vice.com, there are nearly 8,000 different flavors of e-liquids that can be used with an e-cigarette. Despite the fact that e-liquids can be sold without propylene.
Elected member for Cayman Brac East, please sit down.
Madam Speaker, can the elected member of Cayman Brac East please provide the evidence or the article that states that?
Elected member for Cayman Brac East, can you bring your source to the table?
I do not have it with me.
Madam Speaker, point of order. Can the elected member of Cayman Brac East please withdraw the statement then?
Elected member for Cayman Brac East, can you please withdraw your statement?
I apologize, Madam Speaker. I withdraw my statement. Despite the fact that e-liquids can be sold without propylene glycol, which is utilized for production of vapor when heated, and nicotine, there is still a grave danger in the vaporization of artificial flavors. From a simple discussion with the National Drug Council, we learned that flavorings like cinnamon, vanilla, popcorn, and mint can have deadly consequences due to the damage of white blood cells, cell death, permanent pulmonary damage, and the destruction of lining of various blood vessels. A quick search will also reveal that e-liquid containing vitamin E is the most likely culprit that caused the mysterious illness that has sickened 2,051 people and killed 40 in the U.S. Madam Speaker, WebMD states, and I quote, calling it a breakthrough, the agency says it found vitamin E acetate in all 29 samples of lung fluid from patients with vaping-related lung injury. Madam Speaker, not enough attention is being dedicated to ensuring that...
Sorry, may you have a seat, elected member for Cayman Brac East?
Point of order, Madam Speaker. Does she have the WebMD article that she's referring to?
Honorable member for Cayman Brac East, can you bring your source to the table?
I do not have my source with me.
You just have to sit down.
Can she withdraw her statement, please?
Member for Cayman Brac East, may you please withdraw your statement?
Again, apologies. I withdraw my statement. Madam Speaker, not enough dedication is being dedicated to ensuring that these flavored e-liquids are safe. To completely disregard the fact that these flavors can cause serious harm would be a mistake with severe repercussions. The risks and dangers I have discussed are unknown by many. The thought of harm caused by an e-cigarette barely passes one's mind, and in this day and age, the main users of these devices hardly know of these side effects. In the Cayman Islands, vapes and e-cigarettes are used by many youth, Madam Speaker. As the Minister of Health has already discussed, the dangers of vapes can range from increasing blood pressure via a single puff to the increased risk of stroke, heart attack, angina, and heart disease, to the toxicity, oxidation, and inflammation of lung cells. Whether for popularity, addiction, or leisure, e-cigarettes are being used by the future generations without them knowing the harm they are causing to their bodies. Madam Speaker, e-cigarettes have a substantial impact on our bodies, damaging blood vessels and the pulmonary system. Chemicals that range from formaldehyde, lead, nickel, and diacetyl can be found in e-liquids. Too much nicotine, a chemical found in multiple e-liquids, can result in the burning and irritation of the throat, as well as becoming nauseated, developing headaches, stomach aches, and vomiting. Nicotine can also increase blood pressure, heart rate, and the amount of blood that flows to the heart, as well as narrowing arteries. By carelessly using these devices without knowing the risks, the youth are putting themselves in grave danger. By educating them of these risks and cautioning them before the thought of use, we have a better chance at protecting Cayman's youth. Madam Speaker, the United Kingdom has regulations for e-cigarettes as a consumer product. The Tobacco Productives Directive introduced new rules which ensure the minimum standards for the safety and quality of all e-cigarettes and refill containers, otherwise known as e-liquids. That information is provided to consumers so that they can make informed choices, and an environment that protects children from starting to use these products.
You have half a minute left.
Madam Speaker, these regulations include requirements for products of e-cigarettes and refill containers. A producer is anyone who manufactures or imports these products and who rebrands any products of these owned. The new requirements include restricting e-cigarette tanks to a capacity of no more than 2 ml, restricting the maximum volume of nicotine-containing e-liquid in sale for one refill container to 10 ml, restricting e-liquids to nicotine...
Your time is up.
Madam Speaker, under the standing orders, may I be obliged to 30 seconds more?
Of course.
Madam Speaker, if the United Kingdom has implemented these regulations, why can't we? The implementation of regulations would show that this government can control and lessen the damage and repercussions that may incur with the consistent use of vaping products. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for West Bay South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for letting me speak in this honorable House. I am here to speak on the regulations of e-cigarettes that the government has brought forth. Madam Speaker, can you believe that I am bilingual and I still don't understand the government's motion saying? I understand. I don't understand. Instead of trying to regulate vaping, they should try to make a temporary ban. Madam Speaker, earlier this year, according to the CDC, for the government members that do not know what the CDC is, it stands for Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. There were 2,561 hospitalized cases of EVALI, e-cigarette or vaping product use-associated lung injury, in the United States as of December 27, 2019. Government members, please take note. President Trump and his administration issued rules that prohibit fruit, candy, mint, and dessert flavors from small cartridges-based e-cigarettes like Juul. For people that do not know what Juul is an American electronic cigarette company which spun off of Pax Labs in 2017 and is the most popular brand in the United States, the Cayman Islands, and the world. Meanwhile, Madam Speaker, Charlie Baker, governor of Massachusetts, ordered a 4-month temporary ban on the sale of all vaping products in retail establishments, online, and through any other means. This temporary ban, established in Massachusetts, which ended 2 months ago, was ordered so that their medical experts could collect more information about what is driving these life-threatening vaping-related illnesses. Furthermore, the San Diego County Board of Supervisors approved the ban for unincorporated areas of San Diego County. The ordinance has 3 parts: to prohibit the sale of flavored smoking products, to establish 1-year moratorium of the sale of electronic smoking devices, and to prohibit smoking in indoor dining areas. The ban also includes smokeless tobacco products. In addition, Madam Speaker, in New York City, Mayor Bill de Blasio signed into law a bill that bans retail sales of nearly all flavored e-cigarette products. Mint and wintergreen flavors are included, but not tobacco-flavored products. The New York Council passed the ban in late November 2019. Mayor de Blasio said that cities' bans, in absence of federal effort, sends a message to other cities that they can also take such steps. I quote Mayor de Blasio when he says, "Underage vaping is a man-made health crisis." In closing, Madam Speaker, did you know that there is a news article that was put out by Cayman 27, which reported that between 2016 and 2018, 807 Caymanian students between years 9 and 12 used some sort of electronic cigarette, several of whom were daily users, and 350 of whom had used e-cigarettes within the past 30 days. Madam Speaker, the main reason for these students who started vaping was curiosity. Imagine curiosity. What will it take for our present government to make a temporary ban so that they can see and research and understand vaping illnesses and see that these e-cigarettes are no good and that they are making many ill and even worse, killing people? As the present government, you should be more concerned about our people and you should take immediate action towards a temporary ban. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to contribute several points in favor of the private member motion number 1 of 2020. I believe these e-cigarette products should be regulated because they can negatively affect the life in the domestic household. As previously mentioned by the Honorable Minister of Health, bystanders can be exposed to harmful secondhand emissions. The dangers from e-cigarettes do not just stop there. Multiple studies show that contents of e-cigarette vapor can leave residues of nicotine and other substances on indoor surfaces. Now I'm sure everybody here has an idea of what implications this might have on bystanders living with a person smoking e-cigarettes in their dwelling. Madam Speaker, what if those bystanders are children? Do we seriously want our children to be exposed to substances like formaldehyde in their own homes? No, which is why I wholeheartedly believe the government should not only regulate the use of e-cigarette products, but go beyond that and educate the public about the truth on the dangers of e-cigarette use. Madam Speaker, the use of e-cigarettes can also have negative effects on the brain. Nicotine disrupts the normal functioning of the brain because it acts as a critical neurotransmitter and binds to the receptors of the synapses of the brain. Over time, the brain responds by reducing the number of these important receptors and releases less neurotransmitters. At this stage, the brain needs more nicotine to maintain normal functioning. Madam Speaker, let me stress the fact that the abuse of these products leads to the brain needing more nicotine to maintain normal functioning. When these users don't get their nicotine, they feel abnormal. This then leads to not only addiction, but also cognitive and attentional defects. Why are we, as elected members, not already on top of the situation to ensure that these products are not abused? Why are we not ensuring that these products don't end up destroying families? Why are we not ensuring that these products don't disrupt the lives and development of our young people? Madam Speaker, while knowing these facts might prompt people to say that we should place a ban on e-cigarette products, I believe it would be totally unfair to still allow tobacco products which have the same effects to be used. However, the conundrum with e-cigarettes is that the amount of nicotine present in e-liquids can be dramatically adjusted, which is why I propose, if the motion passes, during the drafting of these regulations, the government should implement a cap on the amount of nicotine present in e-liquids. Madam Speaker, my final suggestion for this motion is the implementation of an age limit for the purchase and use of e-cigarette products. Currently, there is no law in place on businesses which sell e-cigarettes for them to only sell to people 18 years and older. However, if you walked into one of these stores today and tried to purchase one as a first-time customer, they will ask for your ID to see that you are at least 18. Now, while I applaud these franchises for having moral compass to not sell to minors, they are not obligated to do so. Given the reasons previously laid out by the honorable members of the House today on how these products can negatively affect adolescent development, I believe we as the government should be obligated to protect our young children from products which have this hazardous nature. Implementing this proposed age limit will not only be the first line of defense to protect our young people, but will also draw a clear line to businesses on what the Cayman Islands government believes is acceptable and what is not. To conclude, Madam Speaker, given the well-documented studies that show how these products can have negative impacts not only on the smoker, but also on the bystanders, and the effects that nicotine can have on the brain, both psychologically and physically, I believe that we as the government should implement an age limit for the purchases of e-cigarette products to prevent minors from being damaged by these products. Therefore, I call you both, government and opposition members, to vote in favor of this motion so that we can progress closer towards a version of Cayman which is safer for our young people. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Minister of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to contribute to the private member's motion number 1 of 2020. There's a few points I would like to make in support of this motion. First, Madam Speaker, the opposition said the government is not treating e-cigarettes like regular cigarettes. I would like to disagree. The government is suggesting an age limit, regulate requiring a license to sell e-cigarettes, controlling the locations in which the use of e-cigarettes could be used. All these suggestions already mirror the tobacco law. But however, what I would say why the government cannot treat these e-cigarettes like regular cigarettes is because the amount of nicotine in the e-liquid can be adjusted dramatically. Madam Speaker, furthermore, there are plans to introduce a new business license for the trade of e-cigarettes. Currently, for businesses to sell tobacco, they need a business license as well as a tobacco license. I believe it should be a similar process for businesses to sell e-cigarettes. Having this license will enable the government to produce a vendor list of all the businesses that would want to sell e-cigarette products. This requirement for a license can allow government to block registration of businesses where the nature of the applicant's business is a healthcare facility, education, or cultural institution. Lastly, the government would move to enforce this motion by employing authorized officers to conduct routine inspections of registered businesses, similar to how inspections are done for businesses that sell tobacco products today. Madam Speaker, now sometimes the opposition likes to say the government's not on the ball when it comes to certain issues. Well, here, the government is being proactive instead of reactive. Madam Speaker, in the United States, we have seen talk about the e-cigarette pandemic, where teenagers have picked up nicotine addiction from e-cigarettes. Madam Speaker, if this House wishes to not have this same pandemic amongst our young teens, we need to pass this motion today. Madam Speaker, our teens need to know the true dangers of these e-cigarette products. Madam Speaker, they need to be protected from these e-cigarette products. Because, Madam Speaker, this motion is not about politics, nor is it about business. What is at stake here today is the health of our young people. The government accepts this motion may not be perfect, but it is the first step towards avoiding an e-cigarette pandemic amongst our young teens. That is why, Madam Speaker, I believe this motion cannot die in the land of would've, could've, and should've. Madam Speaker, I challenge each and every one of these honorable members of this House to take a courageous stand and pass this motion. The government is willing to come to compromises and work across the floor, but first and foremost, we need to get this motion passed because, like I said previously, it's not about politics, nor is it about money. What is at stake here is the health of the young people in the Cayman Islands. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Deputy Leader of the Opposition, the elected member for Georgetown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Firstly, I would like to state that the government of the Cayman Islands has a legacy in being the most reactive body of people in our country, and that, Madam Speaker, is a shame. I believe that they're all in competition with one another to see who could ignore the cries from our locals long enough. It is obvious I've shocked the government. They're staring and gaping at one another as though they are fish out of water. Madam Speaker, allow me to define proactive. It is defined as creating or controlling a situation by causing something to happen rather than responding to it after it has happened. I urge the government to do a temporary ban on all e-cigarettes until they have done a full research of the ramifications of e-cigarettes. Madam Speaker, e-cigarettes are new. The government wishes to implement these regulations that we all know they have no means or intention of enforcing and are waiting until the people of the Cayman Islands fully face the consequences of the use of e-cigarettes. By then, Madam Speaker, the use of e-cigarettes would have gone too far to initiate an effective ban. Madam Speaker, the United States recently announced plans to ban flavored e-cigarettes because of a rise in the number of middle and high school students using these products. A country of 327.2 million. A few days later,
India's cabinet approved an emergency order banning the production, import, and sale of e-cigarettes, a country of 1.339 billion. To date, over 20 countries, mostly in South America, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia, have banned the sale of e-cigarette products. Some countries have also banned possession of these products. Thailand has the strictest law, while countries such as Australia, Canada, and Norway have introduced many restrictions. Madam Speaker, all of these countries have already implemented regulations for the use of e-cigarettes and are now in the process of banning. Yet, Cayman Islands government...
Leader of the Opposition, Deputy Leader, sorry. I recognize the Minister of Commerce.
Madam Speaker, point of order. If the government should ban e-cigarettes because they're dangerous, should we not also move to ban regular cigarettes? Should we also not move to ban alcohol?
Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, that is not a point of order, that's a point of elucidation. With that being said, we decline.
May I resume?
Of course.
Yet, Cayman Islands government has just reached the state of regulating. Madam Speaker, I believe that period has expired. They should have done that long ago. New York has done an overall ban of all e-cigarette usage, and their population is 8.623 million, 140 times Cayman's population. And Cayman Islands government has yet to see the severity of cigarettes. Government needs to wake up and realize humanity is more important than money. Government's role is to be the political direction and exercise control over the actions of the members and citizens of the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, I stand before you today to inform you that not one member on the government knows their role and position. If they knew, they wouldn't present this motion before us today, years after the issue has grown and festered. This motion, Madam Speaker, would have been the solution when the use of e-cigarettes just started. But now, over 10 years later, now it is as if you are putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Research suggests that e-cigarettes may help smokers quit regular cigarettes, benefiting their long-term health. Yet, young people who have never smoked traditional cigarettes are taking up e-cigarettes, which are available in over 1,500 flavors, including bubble gum and candy floss. Students, teens, my very classmates have reported that the first product they have ever used was flavored, and that they use e-cigarettes because they come in flavor they like. Madam Speaker, a regulation that the government has suggested was an age limit. Yet, these flavors come in boxes and is decorated as snacks and candies advertised for 5-year-olds. So tell me, Madam Speaker, these flavors are sold to appeal to youth, like cotton candy, gummy bear, and cherry crush, that are all flavors we are all accustomed to. How, Madam Speaker, will the government regulate something that is marketed for the very age group that they are trying to restrict? Madam Speaker, I found, while preparing for today, doing extensive research on e-cigarettes, and what I found is that if at least one member from government researched what vaping entails, they would agree that a temporary ban is the best solution.
You have half a minute left.
Madam Speaker, under the standing orders, may I be obliged to 1 minute more, please? Thank you.
You may finish your sentences.
Madam Speaker, what I have found is that several of these chemicals are toxic to cells, but what makes research into their safety difficult is that each product is very different, with the final composition of chemicals being determined by the temperature at which the vaping device heats them. In other words, the result is that different chemicals are produced using different flavors and different heat settings. It is generally accepted that e-cigarettes produce fewer of the toxins found in cigarette smoke. However, it is becoming increasingly apparent that this frame is not adequate to tell the entire story regarding individual health impacts. The most recent evidence suggests that e-cigarettes may pose their own unique health harms, and that comparison to cigarettes may not be the only relevant question for determining their impact on individual health. So, Madam Speaker, because of the fact that it may or may not be worse than traditional smoking, we are going to ignore the fact that it is still harmful? Madam Speaker, I urge the government to do a temporary ban on all e-cigarette products until they have done a full research on all chemicals produced and all reactions have been highlighted. Madam Speaker, I refuse to wait until the people of the Cayman Islands are dying from toxins. Madam Speaker, I refuse for the people of the Cayman Islands to be the government's guinea pigs in this situation.
Your time is up.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for East End.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to speak in this honorable House. Now, tobacco products such as cigarettes are considered to be illicit drugs, so in my contribution to the government motion, I will be putting e-cigarettes in that same category. Now, Madam Speaker, government has proposed the regulation of the use, production, and selling of e-cigarettes. And to be honest, I find this quite laughable, as government is not even able to efficiently enforce standing regulations on other illicit drugs. The government is unable to prevent minors from smoking and consuming tobacco products like cigarettes. It seems as though the regulations in the tobacco law are for show because they are not being enforced. It is hard to believe that the government will be able to regulate e-cigarettes when they can't efficiently do the same for other tobacco products. Madam Speaker, can you believe that there is no smoking age for cigarettes in Cayman? There is only a purchase age. The tobacco law of 2008, Section 10, states that no person
Elected member for East End, please sit.
Madam Speaker, can the member of opposition please provide evidence that the government is not sufficiently regulating the tobacco law already?
Madam Speaker, point of order. Can the Minister of Commerce please explain if he's trying to do a point of elucidation or a point of order, because that's unclear. He just asked a vague question.
Can you please clarify, Honorable Minister of Commerce, if that was a point of order or point of elucidation?
Point of order.
Madam Speaker. Okay.
Madam Speaker, if the Minister of Commerce would wait till my speech finishes, he can hear what I'm basing my accusations off of.
You may continue.
Okay. So, Section 10 states that no person shall A, sell a tobacco product to a minor, and B, make available a tobacco product for consumption by a minor. And subsection 2 states, no minor shall buy a tobacco product for consumption, for his consumption or use. Our law does not clearly state that a minor can be convicted for smoking a cigarette. It mainly focuses on the buying aspect. Now, other countries like Vietnam have closed this loophole by putting in their law that it is illegal for people less than age of 18 to use, buy, and sell tobacco products. Madam Speaker, let me get serious now. Tell me why I can go to the gas station right now and pick up a pack of cigarettes with no questions asked. That is because regulations are not going to work if they are not being strictly enforced. Minors will get what they want to get if they can find a way around regulations. Government must first successfully fix these loopholes and tighten regulations on current, more dangerous illicit drugs before they try to regulate e-cigarettes. Madam Speaker, young people, will always find a way around laws. As proof for this, in an online Google survey held on February 8, 2020, 50% of the people claimed that they knew a minor who has smoked a cigarette, and 93% knew a minor who has drank alcohol. This points out the fact that minors will get their way despite any regulations. Even if minors are not buying e-cigarettes, they will still be consuming it. There is absolutely no way government can intervene when, for example, an e-cigarette is being shared at a party or a public event by a non-minor to minors. Government has not clearly stated how they will enforce regulation on consumption. A CNN report from 2018 indicates that overall, the increase in e-cigarette use among high school students from 2011 to 2015 was 900%. So even if the government stops the selling of e-cigarettes to minors, what about the minors that already possess a device? How does the government plan to regulate the consumption of e-cigarettes by these minors? Are they also suggesting that the possession of an e-cigarette by a minor will become a criminal offense? How else are they going to be able to mandate that a minor no longer possesses this device? Because none of this was mentioned in their motion, and I'm yet to hear about it. Now, speaking of production, Madam Speaker, how does the government plan to regulate the production when Caymanian e-cigarette suppliers get their e-cigarette juices and ingredients from other countries? We do not have any e-cigarette factories for the government to regulate. It is quite difficult to micromanage individual sellers and how they mix their flavors.
You have half a minute left.
Because at the end of the day, Madam Speaker, those flavors and those ingredients are not made in the Cayman Islands. They're simply mixed here. Am I questioning government's ability to regulate? In all due respect, yes, I am. They lack in effective regulations and strict enforcement as it is already. So who's to say that even if they get their motion passed, that those regulations will even work? We determine how government will deal with present issues by
Your
looking at...
time is up.
Madam Speaker, under the standing orders, may I be obliged to speak 30 seconds more?
Yes.
We determine how government will deal with present issues by looking at trends from the past. Before thinking of regulating e-cigarettes, the government needs to deal with minors using other more dangerous illicit drugs that are apparently regulated. Because if those regulations don't work, this one sure won't either. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Minister of Financial Services and Home Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to speak on private member motion number 1 of 2020, regulation of the use of e-cigarettes in the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, I agree with the mover of the motion that a vendor's list should be enforced on every e-cigarette business within the Cayman Islands. There are several ways in which this can be done. Firstly, a vendor's list to keep track of all businesses selling e-cigarettes be implemented. Secondly, how e-cigarettes are distributed be regulated. Madam Speaker, a vendor's list is a document which records all vendors' corporate and personal data. A vendor is a person or company offering something for sale. An RFI, which is Request for Information, is a formal document which regulators would send out to each potential vendor, and this document would ask each vendor to respond to several inquiries so as to get an idea of which vendors are suitable. Madam Speaker, in order to implement a vendors list in the Cayman Islands, regulators would have to do the following. Firstly, they would have to send out an RFI to each vendor. In this RFI, it would request when the company began, what their strategy is, what the form of their business is, what type of customers the vendors has, the vendor's financial stability, their delivery track record, their involvement in the community, and their process for dispute resolution, and all other personal and corporate data. Madam Speaker, by doing this, red flags will alert regulators about things like a vendor's history of fraud. Finally, Madam Speaker,
Honorable Minister of Commerce. Please
Point
take
of
a seat.
elucidation, Madam Speaker.
Please take a seat. Honorable Minister of Financial Services.
No.
You have to take a seat.
Sorry.
What is your point of elucidation?
I'd just like to know who the government intends to employ to make these vendors lists for the sale of e-cigarettes.
Do you give way, Honorable Minister of Financial Services?
I do not give way.
Please continue.
Finally, Madam Speaker, regulators would send out a terms and conditions form to their chosen vendors, and this form would include the pricing of their products, how orders need to be made, how billing will work, and how disputes will be settled. Madam Speaker, I believe that vendors lists are very helpful as they can mitigate risks, optimize performance, reduce costs, increase administrative efficiencies, increase onboarding speed, and protecting their brand. Madam Speaker, as a result of their motion, no one can sell e-cigarettes to minors regardless of their reasoning. Also, no retailer can sell e-cigarettes unless the consumer requests it. Additionally, no retailer can sell e-cigarette products unless health warnings are provided to the consumer before their purchase. Finally, no retailer should be able to sell e-cigarette products unless warnings to their health and age restrictions to purchase e-cigarettes are posted on a sign at the cashier. Madam Speaker, we can strike a balance between allowing retailers to be creative and regulating the e-cigarette products for health purposes. Since local retailers are small businesses, they should have room to be creative and allow their products to have a degree of uniqueness and individuality so they can stand out in their respective markets and remain viable for many years. The government would also regularly review e-cigarette products and stay vigilant to immediately ban any e-cigarette products.
Honorable Minister of Financial Services, please take a seat.
I raise a point of order, Madam Speaker. I refer to Standing Order.
You have to take a seat.
I refer to Standing Order 32-4.
You may continue your speech.
Finally, if retailers want to sell a new e-cigarette product or flavor, they should make an application for government to approve trade of any new e-cigarette products. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, I strongly believe that government should pass this motion so there is a clear line drawn between creativity and regulation. In addition to that, a vendors list should be implemented to keep track of vendors. Finally, regulating the distribution would warn the consumer of health risks and age limits for consumption. Madam Speaker, given these reasons, I call for each and every honorable member to pass this motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, for the short of my opposition members, I will be keeping my speech short and spicy. Madam Speaker, I want to firstly thank you for recognizing me. But Madam Speaker, do you recognize all the flaws in the government motion? I know you're up there laughing, Madam Speaker, that the flaws in the government motion are unbelievable. Madam Speaker, I'm sitting in my chair and I have to ask myself, is this Cayman Islands government or our US Congress? Every one of the government members nearly probably says, oh, US this and US that. Only a few base things off the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, how do you plan to regulate this? How do you plan to regulate these vapes that are pens, are in backpacks? They're pens, USBs, watches, devices built into hoodies, backpacks, markers. Madam Speaker, how does the government plan to regulate this? Madam Speaker, I have to put my speech down. This is unbelievable. My speech is not even worth this motion. Madam Speaker, let's start off with the mover of the motion. The mover of the motion talks about Egyptian trends, that Egyptians did vaping. Madam Speaker, we are Caymanians, not Egyptians, so what is he talking about? Madam Speaker, moving on to Cayman Brac West, there's a lack of media. That's what the elected member of Cayman Brac West said. There's a lack of media. Madam Speaker, where did they get their topic from? These CNN reports that are crucifying vapes are telling us these lung cancer issues, these lung problems. So where is the lack of media? Where is the lack of media? These being publicized everywhere, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let's move on to the one and only Minister of Health, the one who is supposed to state the facts straight. She says there is no burning of any substances. Madam Speaker, the coils in the vapes are burning, and that is what causing the lung problems, the coils. So what's the substance not burning? The Minister of Health doesn't even know what she's talking about, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let's go on to the elected member of Cayman Brac East. She preached articles on top of articles on top of articles, but yet failed to provide anything to the table. How is she preaching these articles yet have no evidence? Is she making them up? Is this motion a make-up? Madam Speaker, I have to ask myself the question. Madam Speaker, the Minister of Finance says, oh, vaping is something like tobacco. I can't even speak on that because that is just hilarious, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, moving on to the Minister of Commerce, being proactive instead of reactive. Madam Speaker, if they were proactive, they would implement a temporary ban, not a regulation. A regulation is something simple. Temporary ban. Madam Speaker, almost every government member said something about our teens this and our teens that, but yet they fail to realize that the regulation or temporary ban of these e-cigarettes are for our older generations. They are affecting our older generation, not so much the younger generation. While I do applaud their ideas around the teens, I recommend that they focus more on the adults because there should be a place already for the teens that should not allow to be vaping. Madam Speaker, I sat down here daydreaming, and I heard someone say something about vaping devices. Madam Speaker, do you know how much these vaping devices cost? And to put in each one of the bathrooms, Madam Speaker, whoever brought it, I won't know, I was daydreaming, didn't even say how much they would cost. Do they have the money to put in every single bathroom in every single school, Madam Speaker? That's just hilarious to me. Madam Speaker, I'm just closing off shortly. The government has the right idea, but not the right response. You guys cannot regulate something that needs to be temporarily banned. A ban is more important than regulating. After the ban, then you may proceed to regulate it, but don't come to me saying regulating, then what you guys want to do. That won't be happening. And Madam Speaker, lastly, I haven't heard anything from the Ministry of Education. All their members are talking about educating this and educating that, but in their motion, they didn't say anything about school curriculum or implementing something to the school to regulate them. Who are they going to make educate them? Kirk and West Bay on the street side regulate them? Madam Speaker, I have to laugh, but I will take my laughter to my seat and decline this motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? If no other member wishes to speak, I will ask the mover of the motion to exercise his right of reply.
Madam Speaker, what a debate it has been today. All of our youth parliamentarians discussing their views on this motion has lit up us as Caymanians. So, moving on to my right of reply. According to the elected member for Prospect, she stated that smoking shouldn't be treated like vaping. So, my answer to this is that...
Madam Speaker, point of order. That is not what the elected member of Prospect said, so can the honourable mover of the motion please withdraw what he said?
Point of, reply, Madam Speaker. Can you provide evidence of what your elected member of Prospect actually stated?
Madam Speaker, I present this article to the table.
Sergeant at Arms, that is to be given to me.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. First point of order, there is no such thing as a point of reply, so that is invalid. And second point of order, to clarify the room, the member of Prospect said vaping should be treated as cigarettes. The mover of the motion said it should not be. He's the incorrect here.
Madam Speaker, there was no point in time where I said point of reply. I was going to say point of order, but it's not a point of order. Therefore, I then, resorted to...
You did say point of reply.
Okay.
I'm going to allow the mover of the motion to continue his right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Leader of Opposition, for the clarification. I will withdraw my statement. So, e-cigarette. Vaping should be one of our first priorities because, unlike smoking itself, smoking has a fixed amount of materials that go into the smoking itself, meaning it cannot be manipulated in any way in terms of the chemicals that are produced when the consumer inhales the smoke. Unlike smoking, vaping, e-liquids in vaping can be manipulated due to, in terms of nicotine content, in which some vape companies take it upon themselves to regulate the amount of nicotine placed in their vape juices. And in the black market, some drug dealers were known to place THC in their jewel pods and sell them to minors. So, moving on to the opposition.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. Can the elected member for North Side please provide supporting evidence in regards to black markets?
Mover of the motion, do you have any sources that you can bring to the table in regards to your research based on the black market?
I do not, Madam Speaker.
Can you withdraw your statement?
Yes, ma'am. The deputy leader of opposition, the elected member for Georgetown, says that we have ignored the public and as well as humanity is more important than money. We as the government believe that since we are still in the early research times pertaining to vaping, that not enough research has gone into the multiple e-liquids that comprise vaping. And in cigarettes, it has been 50 years since cigarettes were deemed unhealthy. So we as the government choose to place vaping as one of our top priorities in terms of regulating drugs. Moving on to the opposition member for East End, she says that more dangerous drugs are to be looked at first and then vaping. As I said before, vaping is one of those devices in which the e-liquids comprised in the vaping can be manipulated. So vaping should be one of our first priorities as well. According to the owner of Premium Vapes Cayman, contrary to what the opposition member of East End said, we do have vape juices, e-liquids, that are made in the Cayman Islands, as said by the owner of Premium Vapes Cayman. And some examples of those are honey cantaloupe and the Cayman Islands.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. When the man came to speak to us, he mentioned that he did not make those. Point of order, Madam Speaker. When the man came to speak to us, he did mention that he got his ingredients from other countries and did not make his glycerol in Cayman. He just mixed it here and made his own flavors here. But those ingredients are not from Cayman. Thank you. Therefore, he did not make it from scratch.
Thank you, opposition member. What I meant to say, was that those e-liquids, not in terms of the base ingredients themselves, but the name and the inspiration for the making of the e-liquid is unique to the Cayman Islands. So I think that vaping is As I said in my earlier speech, one of
You have half a minute left.
one of the rising trends, especially among teens, and I feel that we as a government should look at our teens or our adolescents or children, as a matter of fact, in terms of their health and their learning, because vapes can stand in the way of the development and upbringing of the children in our islands.
Your time is up.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question is, be it resolved that this Honorable Youth Parliament considers regulating the use, sale, and production of e-cigarette products in the Cayman Islands. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no.
No.
The noes have it.
Madam Speaker, may I have the division, please?
I have to recognize you when you
Sorry.
stand. I recognize the Deputy Premier.
Madam Speaker, may I have the division, please?
Madam Clerk, please take the division.
Honorable Chanel Martinez.
Aye.
Honorable Carolyn Reyes.
Aye.
Honorable Jamar Smith.
Aye.
Honorable Jasmine Robinson.
Aye.
Honorable Sharika McPherson.
Aye.
Honorable Marcus Lawrence.
Aye.
Honorable Christopher Ferrer Sanchez.
Aye.
Mr. David Tibbetts.
Aye.
Miss Allison Flores.
Aye.
Mr. Zachary Allen.
Aye.
Honorable Rion Porter.
No.
Miss Leah Robinson.
No.
Miss Gabriella King.
No.
Miss Zaria Truman.
No.
Miss Manusri Prabhakar.
No.
Miss Kayla Turner. Miss Naja Beach.
No.
Miss Crystal Garuprado.
No.
Madam Speaker, point of order. The Honorable Minister of Education was not in the building when the vote was conducted, so his vote has to be retracted. He was in the chamber, sorry.
Madam Clerk, please retract his vote. The result of the division is 9 ayes and 6 noes with 1 absentee. Private Member's Motion number 1 of 2020, regulation of the use of e-cigarettes in the Cayman Islands, is duly passed. Madam Clerk? Okay. Before I proceed to the order of business, I would like to recognize Mary Lawrence, former Speaker of the Legislative Assembly. The House will suspend its proceedings for lunch. I will ask all members to return to the chamber promptly at, what time is it? 2 o'clock.